pork country style spare ribs. Now there's a lot of confusion over these. Do they actually have a rib? Do they not have a rib? Boneless, bone-in? Well, quite frankly, there are actually 4 different types of country style spare ribs, and I'm here to tell you that the truth is some of them actually do have a little rib in them. And when we do this, I'm going to prove to you exactly what I mean by that. Now, when we're talking country style spare ribs, they basically could be cut from 2 sections of the pork loin. First of all, there is what's called pork loin country style spare ribs, and that's what we're going to do for you today. And then on the other hand, there is pork shoulder country style spare ribs, which are also called western style spare ribs. Now, what I have here today on the butcher block, I have a 5-pound bone-in pork loin blade roast. We have 7 rib bones. Now, I mentioned to you just a minute ago about the ribs. Well, I'm here to tell you that sometimes a country style spare rib can have a rib in it. As you can see right here, I have a bone-in pork loin blade roast, and it actually has 7 ribs. So we're gonna break this down for you and show you exactly what I mean. But one other thing I wanna note, this is from the blade end of a pork loin. Now, pork loin is about 20 pounds total, and this is from the blade end or the shoulder end of the pork, more towards the front. And you can see when we get to the end here, there's actually that blade bone present, and that's exactly what's in a pork butt. So if this were to end, you'd see the butt next in line, and the shoulder armpit would be a little bit lower. One other thing, on the other side of the blade and bone-in pork roast, you can see what looks like a pork chop. So as this continues on, you get into the center cut part of the pork loin where all the pork chops are cut, and eventually you'd end up in what's called the sirloin end, which is closer to the hip. So that pork loin, stretches from the shoulder all the way to the hip of the animal. So let's get started with breaking this thing down. So I'm gonna flip it over on its back, and I can see the rib bones, how they, these are pretty straight. We have 7 rib bones here. Now we have what's called the chine bone, and normally when I'm in the butcher shop, normally we'll just slice this through a bandsaw, and we usually go a little bit thicker than, say, like a 1-inch pork chop. You can go up to 2 inches on these, but I don't have a bandsaw out here, so how are we gonna do this? Say hello to my little friend. So I have a handsaw. This is a butcher's hacksaw, handsaw, however you wanna call it. And I'm gonna find exactly where I wanna put my initial cuts. I'm gonna locate them. I'm not gonna do each rib bone, as you can see. That would be kind of thin. So I'm gonna go just a little bit wider than that. I'm probably gonna go in maybe 2 ribs on the first cut, and then 1 rib on the second cut. I'm gonna keep staggering that so I don't have to go through the rib bone itself, and I'll get even thickness country style spare ribs. So here we go. We're gonna locate my spot, line that. Okay, it's running away from me a little bit here. All right, I've reached a point where I'm into the meat now. I'm no longer gonna use a saw. I'm gonna remove that. I'm gonna keep continuing on down the line with the saw so I can get into that chine bone, and then after I'll slice through with a knife to get our finished countries. There's 2. All right, I made all my cuts. Now I'm just gonna take a knife. I'm gonna slice right through it. And there's 1 chop. There's a second. Now you can see what's great about this cut of meat. I much rather have a pork loin bone-in country style rib over the pork shoulder bone-in country style rib. Now with this pork loin part, because there's not a lot of collagen in here, or as much collagen connective tissue as the shoulder, it doesn't quite get the same movement and exercising. You can literally go to 150, 160 degrees with this, and it'll still be tender. You don't have to go to that 200 degrees. And that's one interesting characteristic of a pork loin. Now, I tried cutting through the knife, but I've come up across that blade bone. So we're gonna finish it off with the hacksaw. All right, so here are our sliced blade end. Now, what we usually do with the countries, we'll usually put them crosswise. We're gonna slice them down like a cross cut type of thing, right down the middle. All right. All right, now here we go. Some of these have the bone in, and I want to show you some of these do in fact have a rib bone. So whoever's saying country style ribs aren't a rib at all, sometimes they are. There are instances where they are. Now, as you can see, I cut these down. One side will have a bone and the other side does not. So basically we got a bone in and a boneless at the same time. So there's those ones. I'm gonna cut this one down. Those are our bone in, actually bone in and boneless pork loin country style spare ribs.